Ever pinch pennies all year for that one family vacation only to feel the budget blues afterwards? If so, I was just like you. After 3 vacationless years, I stumbled on credit card rewards travel and cracked the code to amazing vacations that I could actually afford.
Welcome to Wonderland on Points. In this podcast, you will discover how opening credit cards strategically can save you thousands on travel. We're not just dreamers anymore. We're 2 adventurous moms turning dreams into reality. Join us as we spill all the points and miles secrets.
And contrary to popular belief, you don't have to spend $1 million to earn 1,000,000 points. Traveling on credit card points isn't reserved for those with overflowing bank accounts. It's for everyday people like you and me, learning to turn routine expenses into free travel.
Consider us your points travel guides. This is Wonderland on Points. Let the adventure begin.
Is that your...
You did not even want me to pretend that I am a witch.
I was not expecting that at all.
I wasn't either. It just came out. Happy Halloween, everyone. It is the week of Halloween. And if you have small children, you are running around gluing together costumes or paying whatever price it costs so that you do not have to put together a costume.
Let me tell you what my teenager is, well, almost teenager is, and her friends are being for Halloween. They're being Beanie Babies. She wants a cow onesie. Her friend is making tags for all of them, and they're all just getting an animal onesie. And
I love this so much.
Isn't that so good?
I want to be a Beanie Baby.
Yeah. And I was like,
the number of these things that I've had, Joanna.
Oh.
Hundreds of Beanie Babies.
Same. I couldn't believe that these kids actually know what Beanie Babies are, to be honest.
I can't either. That's so funny because I actually did buy something by Ty, T-Y. Is it called Ty? I mean, Ty Beanie Babies, right?
We always said T-Y, but I don't know.
You did? Oh, yeah. I think we said Ty. Anyway, I just bought some that aren't officially Beanie Babies. My toddler's obsessed with this older cartoon, not super old, but it's called Lion Guard. It's still on Disney+.
I know Lion Guard.
The Lion Guard. So at one time, the Lion Guard came out like 10 years ago or something. Yep. It's not a recent cartoon, but at one time, Ty apparently made little stuffies that were Lion Guard. So I have been buying these things on eBay because she, of course, has to be obsessed with a cartoon that is not currently out. So I just bought all these little Ty Beanie Baby-like things. So I was talking to my son about Beanie Babies this week. That is such a cool costume.
It is such a cool costume.
I love that she's not like sexy kitten or something already.
Oh my gosh, I would lose my marbles. Luckily, we're still in like the comfy, cozy costume era as they are in middle school generally. High school is where you just never know what vibe they're going to try to go with. Not a fan of that. Not a fan. If I were to dress up for Halloween, I would want like a full Renaissance ball regalia, like period costume straight out of the 1800s. So
I see you in that.
Yeah,
I see you in that.
I have nowhere to go in that. We don't get invited to Halloween parties. And the kinds of Halloween parties usually that adults have are not, I'm too old for that vibe. Like throw a full masquerade ball or I'm not interested.
Yeah, I feel you. Well, I hope that everyone here is going to have a great week, whether you are doing something for Halloween or not. Joanna, you're looking past Halloween, though, because you are looking towards Thanksgiving. Kind of last minute, though, I will say, as far as flights go.
Really last minute because I wasn't planning on going anywhere for Thanksgiving. But you know what? My grandmother, one of my favorite people on the planet, just turned 91 last week. And I was talking to her and she asked me if I was coming. And I had to say, no, Grandma, it's just, I don't think it's going to work. I don't think we can get flights. And, you know, the points redemptions are kind of high on Southwest. And, you know, my work schedule's a little tough around that time. And, you know, and after I talked to her, I was thinking and mulling it over, and I just started looking around. And indeed, the Southwest flights were quite expensive. I think for me and my daughter to both go there and back ended up totaling somewhere near 40,000 points, which is high for Southwest. Okay.
Yeah, that is very high.
But you know what? I grabbed them anyways, and I was like, I'm going to think about this. I'm going to think about whether or not I can really afford to spend these points on this, because that's really what they're there for. But it's also hard for me, getting a deal is also, I like to stretch my points as far as I can. So this was a kind of a back and forth for me. And then you know what I did? I took myself straight over 2 points. Yeah. And I did what I often forget to do for like small domestic flights. Atlanta is literally like barely more than an hour flight.
Yeah, and so short.
So short. And I always think of Southwest for that every single time. Like Southwest has a million nonstop flights from here to Atlanta, a gazillion times a day. I'm using those big hyperbole words that people in my
Of course
in my house,
it's a zillion. Yeah. I believed you.
Thank you. Thank you. People in my house make fun of me for using these words on the regular. So I was like, you know what? I could use these search tools that I'm always using to find people amazing international flights and even like more long distance domestic flights. And I could just see real quick what's going on to get me down to Atlanta. Guys, my brain probably exploded. The first thing that came up was a Delta flight on the day that I wanted to go from St. Louis to Atlanta, and it said 7,000 points per person.
Now we're talking.
Right? But here's what I didn't notice. I didn't notice that it was through a partner. So the first thing I did is I hopped my little self over to the Delta app, and I found the flight, and I was like, what do you mean this is 18,000 points a person? That's not what Points Yeah said to me. And then I hopped back over to Points Yeah, and I was like, oh, this is booked through Air France KLM through Flying Blue. Oh,
we
amazing.
Love some partners.
Also, there's a transfer bonus right now from Amex. Amazing. So then what do? I go log into my Air France account, and what do I find sitting there? 16,000 Air France points that I had transferred when I was supposed to go to Wits and accidentally didn't book my flight. Anybody who's been listening for a long time will remember how I somehow didn't make it through to the end of booking a flight and lost the flight. And those points have just been sitting there ever since.
And you had forgotten about them, right? So this was completely discovering.
A surprise. Yeah, it was free money at that point, even though
like finding $5 in your pocket after you washed your clothes or something, or $20 in the laundry.
100%. So I booked that obviously immediately. I was like, guess this is a sign we're going. Okay, we're going. So then I was like, well, either I'll take those really expensive Southwest flights back, or maybe I'll get lucky and there will be something on the way back. And remember, I still had 2,000 points left over from the purchase I just made. I think it was actually 2,500. I think I had 16,500 in there. And so then I find flights home, and it's even cheaper. It was 6,000 a person. And
wild.
There's a transfer bonus. And I have 2,000 left. So I total to fly to Atlanta and back for 2 people had to transfer 10,000 points from my Amex. That was it. And these
week of Thanksgiving.
The week of Thanksgiving. And these flights were up around $300 average per piece. $1,200 worth of flights for 10,000 transferred from my Amex. And of course, like the 16,000 that were just hanging out before. But that doesn't even feel like I used them. So all of this to say, guys, I would not have found these without a points tool. You can certainly learn routes, and you can certainly learn, ins and outs of what to look for, and you can go straight to the flight providers themselves. But when you're really getting intricate and you're accessing partner flights and award charts, these tools are so valuable. You do not want to sleep on them. They take a little bit of time to learn how to use to their maximum potential, but the payoff is so worth it, and it's a free tool. I don't pay for the premium.
No, I don't either. But I get in this trap of only thinking about these tools if I'm looking for international flights. And
Yeah.
you really tend to overlook them for domestic routes,
Yes.
and you shouldn't.
I actually kind of feel sick about how many times I might have flown Southwest for a little bit more than I should have. And right now I don't have the companion pass. Now, if I had the companion pass, Southwest would probably come out on top most of the time. But right now I don't. And so that now I'm thinking back through all the Southwest flights I've taken this past year, wondering, like, could I have been flying Delta for 5,000 points when I flew Southwest for
back.
9? I know. You're right. You're right. Before we go on, Mary Ellen, do you have some really exciting news to share with our audience that we literally just discovered only moments before hopping on to record?
Guys, I, from time to time, will pull up the Apple podcast charts because they have podcast charts. And we've been ranked in the top 100 for Apple Podcast in the US several times, almost weekly. You know, we have been ranking there, which is really cool just to see kind of how we go up and down that list, and really just an honor because this is still so wild to us that we are two moms, two very normal people who are busy with our kids and our jobs, but we just love talking about points and miles. And we've really enjoyed you guys coming along for the ride, learning with us and dreaming with us of trips that we can take our families on.
Yes.
And this week, I just looked at the chart a few minutes ago, actually, and saw that we were ranked number 33. Oh my goodness. I just couldn't help. I mean, what?
My dog is even celebrating. Did you
Even
hear
the dog
that?
is excited.
I don't know if that made it into the microphone, but if it did, you guys, my dog was singing along in joy about this. We are so honored because we don't hit these numbers without your listens, your downloads, your ratings and reviews. I mean, truly, to be on the top 100 at all is a huge honor. There are countless places and travel podcasts in this category, but to be in the top 50, to be number 33, that's massive. And we're up there with podcasts that have been around a lot longer than us. And we are so grateful. I cannot stress that enough. We love you guys. You are an incredible, incredible community. And we brag about you guys all the time. And we talk about how awesome it is to have literally the best, most supportive community ever. It's just such an honor.
Thank you, guys. Thank you for sharing, because that's really how podcasts grow, right? When you enjoy a podcast so much that you tell your neighbor about it, tell your friend about it, about what you've been learning, that's how we grow. So simple things, sharing it on your social media, and just word of mouth, telling the other moms at the play date that you're learning stuff from this show, it really means so much to us, and it helps us grow. So thank you, guys. And now we need to get into our episode today. It's so cool. This is a perfect time to mention this because
it really is.
Yeah, the guest that we have on the show today actually got into Points and Miles because she found this podcast, and we were the first Points and Miles podcast she ever listened to. And so today she's going to share her story, share what's possible just in a short amount of time, less than 1 year she's been doing this. And she has some incredible trips booked. So you're going to love hearing from her. Let's roll it.
Yeah, let's do it. Here's Jenna from Travelers in Law.
Today, everybody, we have a brand new friend. Jenna is a lawyer out in LA who had been dabbling in credit card points a little bit, kind of just using one credit card, earning her rewards, and not really knowing what all was out there until this spring when she really figured out all of it, clicked with Points and Miles, and just the whole world opened up. She went down the rabbit hole, as we always say people do, and and everything has just changed. And so we are so excited to have you, Jenna, here to give us a real great tangible example of what that first year can look like for people when they get started with points and miles, how many points they can actually earn, what some of those first redemptions can look like. We're just so excited to share your story with everybody. So thank you for joining us.
Thanks for having me. This is really exciting.
So start at the beginning. Walk us through your family makeup, what kind of travel you guys like to do, and then tell us how you first got started on this and maybe if it has anything to do with our podcast.
Spoiler alert, it absolutely has to do with your podcast.
I might have been fishing just a little because I might have already known that, and it just nothing in the world makes me happier. So, all right, tell us everything. Walk us through how you got started, and then when you decided to kind of shift gears and make an Instagram, because you are doing the thing over on Instagram. Everybody should go look at your page, and we'll link it up and talk about it at the end. But you have some very great starter recommendations for people. So we want the journey. Walk us through it.
My first ever points credit card, I was 22 and I'm now 33. So it's been quite a while, but it was the Capital One Venture One. So it was like 1.25x per dollar. And I just put everything on that card. I don't even know if there was a sign up bonus. I didn't track my points. I just thought like, oh, you get a card that has miles and end of story.
Right.
And just kind of had that one card and figured one day the dream redemption would come up, and I did eventually use those points, but that's a little bit later down the road. So our family makeup, it's just me and my husband. We've been married for about 3 years. We have a dog, so we're a dinkwad family, double income, no kids with a dog.
Love that.
We learned that term
We
from our
learned
friend
that term.
DeAndre.
DeAndre and Taryn, they called themselves dinkwads, and I was like, this is a new phrase for me. Maybe because I've been a mom for 13 years.
So wild to me.
We're the same age. I'm ancient.
We do want to start a family hopefully next year, but we got into this just being the dinkwad situation.
It's such a great place to start with points and miles. I feel like literally the world is your oyster.
Ironically, though, all of our vacations that we're planning, we're trying to figure out planning around potentially having a kid. That's a next year issue. So after I had my first card for probably about 5 to 7 years, I then got over the fear of annual fees and I upgraded to the venture card. So the just standard, the 2X, the $95 one. And that's the card I had for another 5 years and still did the same thing, just put all my points on that and just kept accumulating. And then when I went on my honeymoon, it was my first time ever flying in business class.
Oh, that's exciting.
Oh, goodness. Once you go business, it's really hard to go back for international flights. So we went to the Maldives and that ended up being my first, yeah, I know. It was
so awesome.
It's still like an incredible trip and I kind of can't believe we pulled it off. But that ended up being when I finally used all those points. I was supposed to actually start my first ever trial the day after we got back from my honeymoon.
Oh my gosh.
Goodness.
So I was reading depositions. I was trial prepping on the plane. And then Omicron hit. So
yes,
the trials all got pushed a couple extra months and suddenly I had this extra time. I didn't have to start trial on the Monday.
Oh, that worked out well.
Yeah, thank God. And we decided that why don't we extend our honeymoon by a night? We loved the resort we were staying at. We just were not quite ready to come home. And so we ended up booking another night at the resort and used my points as the travel eraser. So we got that extra night for free.
Love it.
Travel eraser. And that trip just really ruined us for travel because we were like, this is amazing. We love this luxury travel, but we can't really afford it. So that's when I decided to upgrade again to I think that was when I got my first Chase card. I was like, all right, we'll get the 3X, but I still had no idea about how redemptions worked. I just thought everything was you then booked through a portal or you did the travel eraser. I'd never had any concept of transferring points to anything. So I did that. And then I got the Venture X card and got rid of my Venture cards because I had this thing in my head of you can only have one of any type of card at any given time.
Right.
And so just kept doing that for another couple years. I don't even 100% remember exactly what made me decide to start doing full out points and miles, but I came across your guys' podcast and everything suddenly started clicking and making sense. And yeah, I went down that rabbit hole real fast, really fast.
When you told me this, that we were the first Points and Miles podcast you found, I think that my head exploded. Just because we haven't, we're coming up on 1 year. So we're relatively new to this podcasting space. And there are so many amazing Points and Miles podcasts out there. So all we want is to teach people, and for them to grasp it and for it to be easy and understandable. And I feel like that's what you're saying happened. And that is so exciting to me. If Jenna is the only person that ever learned anything from our podcast, and look where you are now and what you've accomplished, that's all I need. I can die happy. I'm good. Now we kind of have caught up to this spring. And this is where things started to get amazing for you. So what was your first step after really learning how things could actually be once you started understanding transfer bonuses and everything like that? Did you start opening cards quickly? Did you strategize? What happened next?
So I'm very much one of those people where I don't jump into anything unless I feel like I've learned it all.
Yes.
Not necessarily a healthy way to go, but that is who I am.
It does seem like a lawyer quality, though, maybe.
Yes, it is. Yeah, a little bit. I kept running into this issue where I would see all these Points and Miles people on Instagram, and they would be like, oh, here's your beginner cards. Get a Chase Sapphire card. Get a Capital One card. Get an Amex. I'm like, okay, great. Now what? I just was like, no one told me what was next. Everyone's like, oh, business cards. I'm like, I don't have a business. I'm not going to get approved. I work for a firm. I don't own my own company. Talking with your podcast and hearing about the business card stuff, I kept being like, okay, it works for them, but it's not going to work for me. And I think I actually reached out to you guys. I think I DM'd you and was like, hey, I don't know what card to get next. And your recommendation was try to get a business card. And so I went on my Chase account and it showed that I was pre-approved for a business card.
Oh, cool.
I was like, we're just going to see what happens. And since I was pre-approved, it took some of the stress out. And that kind of just opened the door. And we've mostly focused on Chase since then, just getting the business cards bouncing back and forth between me and my husband. I did open up another Capital One Venture card because I saw the big bonus and I was like, oh, cool, Capital One, let's do it. And yeah, that was just kind of the rabbit hole, was just jumping in. And I really wanted to show on my Instagram that kind of a journey of what comes next. Great, here's your starter cards. Everyone talks about that. Now I'm seeing everybody on these amazing trips that are 10 years down the road in their Points and Miles journey.
Yes.
I'm just starting. I wanted to show the middle ground, and that's kind of how the Instagram was born. So every month we post exactly how many points we have in every single currency and how we gained them, and just kind of
I love that transparency, and it's really good for brand new people to see what is realistic for me. What could I actually do? Was your husband a reluctant player too, or was he pretty on board quickly? Is he not on board yet?
I think it's actually a really funny story. The Instagram and me really getting into Points and Miles started at the same time, and he found out about both at the same time. I had promised that I am not going to tell him about that I started an Instagram until I have 1,000 followers. Because if I have 1,000 followers, then it's a thing.
It is a little embarrassing. I didn't tell anybody when I started mine. I didn't want any naysayers, so I just did it.
And he's a sweetheart. I love him, but he can be a little grumpy gills. So guys, he's trying to tease me and make fun of me unless it's something that's genuine. I put my first post up. I went to an appointment. I came back 3 hours later and I walk into the house and he's like, what the heck is Travelers in Law and why is there my photo on it?
He's like, you made this sound like it's an us thing and I am not part of this.
He didn't even know that I was doing an Instagram. He didn't know I was into Points and Miles. And all of a sudden, this thing I'd been trying to hide was just out in the open.
Surprise!
Yeah. And it was all because my mom and my friend had followed me. And so it showed up on his Instagram of people you may know. And it's Travelers in Law photo.
People you may know. Your wife. And your own picture. That is so funny.
Thanks a lot, algorithm.
I'll make you feel a little bit better. My podcast is not a secret from my family. They very much are aware of the podcast, but my husband has not ever listened to a single episode.
Same.
So he has secondhand embarrassment. He's like, oh my goodness, I can't believe you're talking on the podcast. He's never listened to any of it. So he's supportive of me doing it, but he doesn't want any part of it.
They would be so proud if they actually listened. In fact, sometimes Dane will catch a clip as I'm, editing something and he's like, you guys actually sound legit. I'm like, yeah, we are legit. Thank you, sir. So he found out about the Instagram, and then did you have to say, oh, by the way, we're a travel hacking family now?
I'm very lucky. He is the most supportive person of everything I do. And he essentially was kind of like, well, as long as I'm the one you take on the trips and just tell me what to do, tell me what card.
Oh, that's the best.
You go.
He doesn't want to learn it on his own, but he's absorbing it. He actually, the other couple months ago, paid our taxes on a credit card without telling me he was doing it. And I was so proud.
There you go.
Yeah, I was so proud of him for just being like, he's like, oh, I think I can, if I put it on this card that gets 2x, I can then get points for it. And then you can use that to pay for something, right? And I'm like, yes.
Good job. I think we have to put our men in charge. Like, we have to say, okay, buy all of your gas on this card this quarter. Don't use anything else. Like, there's they don't take anything into their own hands, because I think at least I'm speaking for myself. He's too afraid that he would mess something up and I would be mad. But he won't.
I literally send my husband emails. Okay, this is the card you're allowed to use right now. I am using this card. We're going to use this until we get here. So don't do anything except for use this card. I just send him a little update. Okay, new update. Use this card.
He's pretty good about it. I also, a lot of the times, will just take whatever card, even if it's opened in his name, and I'll just use it myself. So I don't have to worry about it. But yeah, he's been supportive, and he's excited for the trips that we're going to be taking with the points that we've earned. And he goes up on the Instagram. The posts that have him in it do kind of better just because he's cute and fun.
How funny. How annoying, right?
No.
You're like, wait a minute. Why are his posts doing well?
But it's funny because he'll post, like, he has no involvement in the Instagram at all other than just being the talent. So
That's
even
awesome.
though it's plural, it's me doing all of it. But like, his friends are the ones who follow us, and it's really sweet.
So where are your points now? I know you said every month you share with your Instagram followers. What does it look like now? So April is when you really buckled down, and it is now late October. Where are you at this point?
800,000 points.
Wow. People do not understand what is possible when you buckle down. But I feel like we should break it down a little bit for people. Talk about your velocity, all that kind of stuff. So you met your first sign-up bonus. I'm assuming sometime back in April you got, into maybe a Chase sign-up bonus. Yeah. What did you do in terms of space in between cards? How long did you wait? Did you you did me, didn't you? You did a me. Okay, I see where this is going.
I got a little excited, and I think I opened another card within 30 days. And one thing that I think is also just in the interest of transparency, right when I was getting into this and decided I really wanted to buckle down on it, I had actually just drained every Capital One point I ever had. We're doing a pregnancy moon. We're leaving in December. We're going to Bali and Malaysia. And I used all of our points combined. Both of us had Capital One points, and I drained all of them in travel erasing our flights to Bali.
Perfect, though. That's what we always say. Don't just let the points sit there. Earn and burn. Good job.
Well, it was actually a moment of, oh my goodness, realizing that points are not like a savings account. They don't earn interest. Holding on to points does nothing. It does not help you in the slightest. So I'm very much a saver. I'm very fiscally responsible. So this concept of, oh, I need to spend something is a very new concept to me in the last 6 months. It's been a little stressful getting past that. But so now, at least when I can say this is how many points we've gained, it's because I started Capital One at 0 again.
So it's truly like an organic number since that time.
Yeah, but I I got very excited, and I started with a Ink Unlimited because that was the one that I'd been approved for. And then the next card I opened was another venture card.
Okay.
And I did it within 30 days because I was about to go to trial and it was an away trial. So I knew that I had thousands of dollars of reimbursable expenses coming up.
That is the dream. Wonderful. The reimbursable expenses, it's just every single person that travels for work. Marcia, my sister, I'm talking to you, and does not capitalize on sign-up bonuses with reimbursable expenses. Why? Why? So painful. Anyways, I'm really happy for you. That's amazing. Okay, so sorry, derail. 30 days apart. For the first two.
I have slowed down since.
That's probably good.
Yeah. So then the goal is to kind of space out every 45 days. I get a card or my husband does. So we're about 90 days apart. At the moment, we're a little stuck because we're refinancing and you can't open a new credit card while you're refinancing. So I'm just waiting for that loan to close so I can go apply for another card.
Yeah, that is painful for sure. A two-player strategy where both people are invested and are willing to open cards is a true dream. I definitely don't have that.
It hasn't been easy. It's been him stressing about what's going to happen to my credit score. And so I'm going to open cards first to show him, look, it's not going to hurt us.
Yeah.
And I want to follow up on what you said about refinancing, because it's one thing that we really haven't talked about much on this show is if you do know that you have something coming up, like you're going to need a car loan, buy a brand new car or buy a new home. While we always say it really doesn't hurt your credit score, there is something to be said for pausing for a while before that big new expense and before you're going to need to have a big new loan. So did you have any trouble having opened some cards with refinancing?
It's funny that you mentioned the car because I actually got in a new car right before I started Travel Hack.
Oh, no. And that shows up as an inquiry.
Yeah, I didn't plan this out well, timing-wise. And then 6 days before we applied for our loan to refinance, I had opened another credit card.
So did that give them any pause? Were they upset about that, or did they ask you questions about that when you were refinancing?
No, they were because my credit score had already been so high. And because I think maybe it would have been different if it had been a mortgage rather than a refinance. Maybe it would have been a little different, but they didn't question us on it. Our financial person just said, you can't get any new credit in the time period from when you first apply for the loan until the loan closes. And I was saying, okay, great, make that like 45 days so that I can open another card on schedule. And it's been a little bit longer than that. So,
oh no, that's painful, but still very important to talk about. When we do tell people to strategize with their cards, I didn't really. I jumped in kind of when I first started learning, I jumped in with a Southwest card before I really understood like timing on the companion pass, before I knew anything about 524. And it messed me up. And I think people not only need to be strategizing with the order of cards, spacing of cards, their 2-year plan, I recommend, but also big things in life that might come up. Cars, refinance, mortgage, any of that stuff. All those pieces work together and do matter. So I think that's very good wisdom. Maybe not the most fun thing to talk about in the world, but really important.
Let's circle back to that trip to Bali and Malaysia that you booked this year. Super exciting. Which strategy did you go with? What point currency did you use, or how did you work out? You said you totally got rid of all of your points in this booking. So how did you do it?
It was around the time where I had just started realizing you can transfer points. And so I spent so many hours on blogs and searching how to get to Bali on points. And it just started, I was finding award flights, but they were like $250,000 per person one way.
Ooh, yikes.
Terrible.
And I knew just in my gut that wasn't how this was supposed to go.
Are you going business class?
Yes. Well, I don't know how I found our flight home on like a random 1 a.m. on a Tuesday, business class with Singapore Air for obscenely cheap. And I definitely thought it was a mistake fare and panicked, thinking I hadn't really booked it.
That's awesome. So it was a cash price. It was like a low mistake fare. Awesome.
Yeah. And I was like, I don't think this is right. Can I just book this at 1 a.m. without talking to him first? I'm just going to do it. And
good for you. Sometimes you just got to pull the trigger.
Ask forgiveness later. Then I kept trying to find the flight there. And what we ended up doing was we found a flight, it's 3 different flights to get to Bali from Los Angeles. It is a lot. And going business class makes it harder. So we just decided to book it using cash, and we drained both of our Capital One points as a travel eraser. So we're out of Capital One points now at the time.
But
points well used.
Absolutely. And I know everybody talks about the value, and the purchase eraser isn't the best value because you can transfer them and get more value. I know it's like beating a dead horse how often I say this stuff, but like, would you realistically have been able to spend all of that money out of pocket? Probably not. At least not comfortably or without feeling a lot of anxiety about spending it. So points, super well spent. That's amazing.
Yeah. The cool thing is, like, since then, we've now replenished our Capital One points and have booked flights for a different trip coming up that I'm like giddy about. I'm so excited to talk about that trip. And that one is actually the first ones we booked using transfers. So I've now have done both sides. And yes, you do get a better value. But also this trip I booked 13 months ahead of time.
Wow.
I found the award.
Yeah.
Jumped on it.
Well, don't leave us hanging. Where are you going?
I know. I almost think she should end with it just so people are forced to stick around to hear the good
I'm on the edge of my seat.
Okay, fine.
So my family is a huge Formula One family. Like, we are.
That is so cute.
Obsessed.
I love it.
In my thing, you can see I am a Lewis Hamilton fan. That is always in my office.
I love this.
We actually went to a race last year, so in 2023, and was like, this is a once in a lifetime opportunity. We're never going to get to do this again. Well, I was gaining all these points, and I was like, you know what? I want to do it again.
Yeah.
So we are travel hacking our way to a Formula One race.
Heck yeah.
Beautiful.
September 2025.
Yes, Italy. I love it so much.
That is amazing. So have you already found flights for that and everything?
It's crazy the way it's all going, because we have a conference every year, Labor Day weekend in Las Vegas. So we are going to Las Vegas for the conference. The day we get back, we are flying to Italy. So we are flying business class from LA to Madrid, and then we'll take a little puddle jumper, a reverse positioning kind of thing from Madrid to Milan for the race. And then it just so happens that the weekend after the race, my friend's getting married in New York. So we're flying from Milan to JFK, which we also travel hacked, going to a wedding in New York, and then flying back to LA from there. So it's going to be
that might help soften the time zone blow. You're just coming back to New York, and then which airlines?
We love to fly business class if we can. And so there was a transfer bonus to Flying Blue to Madrid on Air France. And then we're doing that fifth freedom flight, Milan to JFK on Emirates.
Oh my gosh. What do you know the redemptions off the top of your head for both of those?
Yeah, I do.
I guess throw them out there. I love numbers.
Hey everybody, we are going to get right back into today's episode, but first we want to tell you about a brand new way that you can support the podcast. If we are bringing value to you, if you are learning new things that can help your family travel more for less, then consider buying us a coffee.
We put a ton of hours of work into this podcast every single week, and it is our mission and our goal to teach you guys how to travel on points, to create a space where you guys feel like you're just sitting down with a friend to have a cup of coffee. We want you to laugh. We want you to cry. We want you to hear all of the vacation stories that will inspire you and your family. So if you are getting value from us and you are enjoying these episodes, this is such a great way to show your support.
So visit buymeacoffee.com/Wonderland on points. When you choose to become a sponsor of the podcast through Buy Me a Coffee, you are actually helping us get the money that we need to buy nicer equipment, a new computer for Joe. We have some very tangible items that this will help with. So we hope you will consider it. Now back to today's episode.
The one to Madrid was, for the two of us, it was 118,000 points plus $200 in fees for business class. But because of the 20% transfer, we got it for 96,000.
Great.
Perfect.
Fantastic.
Yeah, that's less than 50,000 a person from LA all the way to Europe is
nonstop.
Pretty spectacular.
I think it came out to about 8.5 cents per point.
Great. Fantastic.
Yeah.
Okay, well, tell us about the one we all really want to know about.
The Emirates.
Yeah, I just made the ugliest face of excitement.
Oh, so then the Emirates one was a little bit more. It was 174,000 for the two of us, and then about $100 in fees. So that one broke down to, I think, 6 cents per point.
Mm-hmm.
But still, the alternative was a flight on Air France going through through Charles de Gaulle, and it just would have been almost the same amount of points for a flight that would have had a stop, and this is a direct flight.
You
So we're
booked
flying
these 15 months out? Is that what you said?
13.
About
So the
13
date
months
the
out.
award calendar opened for these
Perfect.
dates, I was online being really annoying, refreshing.
And that's different for every airline. So
Some is
if
11.
you think that, if you think that you want to plan a big trip like this in the next probably year and a half, Google the award availability when it is released for each airline, because some airlines it's 330 days, which you're like, really? Why is it not, like a calendar year, or where are we coming up with some of these numbers? But look up how many days it is. And like Jenna mentioned, you really want to hit it on the day that it opens up to get the best shot at availability.
Yeah, because your other option is truly like 1 to 2 months out, because a lot of times more business availability will open. She's having a heart attack over there. I also cannot. My life does not allow spur of the moment tripping. I wish it did. Tripping was a weird word to use. Okay. But
trial lawyer, I actually, like, my job, I cannot do last minute trips. I have to, because I have a court schedule, I have to book out a year ahead of time. I have to plan ahead in order to go on a vacation.
Yeah, doctors and lawyers too. I think that's just very common. But those are, for getting good award availability, those are kind of your only two options. There's no like middle ground of just trying to do something 6 months. Like, it's either really the day that it opens, right before, or you're just insanely lucky to have stumbled across something, is how I feel.
I wanted to kind of share about the Emirates flight. And this was my husband's idea of all things. So when I learned this, of when you're doing the transfers of your points, it's not always instantaneous. Which is incredibly nerve-wracking.
Yes. Oh my goodness.
You're thinking of like, I've got this flight, I want this exact flight. Is there going to be award availability by the time my points transfer? And I was transferring from Chase, and I was refreshing, and it was not appearing instantaneously. And so I'm like, I'm going to lose these flights. Like, I don't know when they're going to come. And my husband had the idea of actually reaching out to Emirates and asking them to hold the award flight for us.
Yeah.
And they did. So they booked us on the flight and basically told us, when the points go to your account, call us, we will process it. And we held the flights for 48 hours and we got our points. And so I did not think I could actually just reach out to the airline, and my husband will not let me live it down now.
Yes, and I don't think that every airline will do it, but there are some. I know Air France will do it. If you're going to take advantage of their stopover program ever, you can call and hold your flight and figure out all the details for 48 hours. So it definitely pays to at least reach out and try if you can't find an answer on Google, because it takes so much of the stress out of it. Okay, well, we need to know how many cards that you guys have collectively opened since you started doing this. I would say in a year, but really you've just been doing it since April. So you're not even at a year yet, but we still want to know, since you started going hard, how many cards?
We're at 6 for this
Amazing.
year.
So you have about 6 months left to make a year from the time you started. So talk us through your strategy for the next 6 months.
Yeah, so I think I'm actually going to start delving into Amex.
Do it.
Right.
You know we love Amex over here. It took me a minute to get into Amex too. It is time.
Yeah, and one of the reasons I held off was, other than just the annual fees feeling like a lot of money at the time. I say that as I have a Venture X, which is higher than the gold card, so I'm kind of a little bit of a hypocrite on that. Part of it was also, I was so overwhelmed at the time when I was first learning everything. I didn't want to juggle a third currency.
Absolutely.
I was like, all right, I need to master Capital One, I'll master Chase, and then I'll go into Amex. But I am worried about a velocity issue with Chase. And Capital One is very strict on how many cards you can open.
They are.
They're stricter than Chase, which was, even despite the 524.
Yes.
So I'm going to probably go into Amex next. And also I want to capitalize on Rakuten for the Christmas.
You
finally convinced her.
So we're going to start with Amex. And then part of the Formula One thing is we're going to be staying in Milan. So I'm actually going to look at which hotels are best to stay for the race. And I might go into a co-branded card. might dabble just so that we can travel hack the actual stay in Milan. And I was looking it up today, actually, and it's a Hyatt.
Oh, well, and if it's category 1 through 4, which I don't know about Milan, but if it's category 1 through 4, the Hyatt comes with the free 5 nights right now, I think is the sign up bonus on the Hyatt personal card. Now, if it's above,
don't know the category, I know it's, I looked it up, it's 23,000 points a night for that week. So I don't know.
Definitely double check, because sometimes it comes with a chunk of points, but sometimes it comes with more nights, I think, than really points. And if you don't check the category, you're going to be like all of the people that I see in the Facebook groups being like, I thought I could use my free night to stay at this hotel. And they cannot, because it is only the category 1 through 4. So definitely look. Okay.
See, even the podcast I'm on, I learned something.
That's what we're here for. But that's the thing, is like, nobody knows everything. That's why it's such a cool community. We are all constantly learning. Literally, I learn something new in this game every single day. It makes me feel like a child in the best way.
Yeah, so that's the plan. And then I'm going to continue probably, I'm also revamping. So my husband does own his own firm. So we're revamping their entire, because I got my mom into travel hacking, which is fun.
Nice.
And she's their office manager, again, very enmeshed. So we are revamping their financial, the way they do all their system, in order to start using points.
Yeah.
And opening business for them. And so the points are now going to become like a benefit of being a partner in their firm, is all the points that get earned by the end of the year are divvied up according to your equity interest. So
that is genius.
Very cool.
I didn't even know you could do stuff like that, because I thought sharing points was kind of hard. But however it works, that's amazing.
So it's really easy with Capital One. You can actually just share your points with whoever else has a Capital One card. There's no question about it.
See, I just learned something new. I did not know that.
Yeah. It doesn't matter who it is. It doesn't matter. It's like Chase, you're limited to sharing with only one person.
Households.
And it has to be in your home.
Yeah.
With the business cards, it's a little bit different. You can share with one business partner. So that works for them because there's only 2 of them, but it's still kind of a little sticky. So we're going to stick with Capital One because my dad cannot wrap his head around any of this. So I just figured I would make it as basic as possible for him. And so that's all the other reason we went with Capital One, is we can just call and get the points transferred.
Yeah, that's amazing. That is such a cool perk, and it's really smart. Anybody who has a business and is not capitalizing on business expenses and getting points for them, I won't ever understand. But what I want to do before we start wrapping up is, you are very vocal on your Instagram about how your starter card recommendation for people is a Capital One card. And I find that fascinating, because I am just like everybody else on the internet that's like, my favorite card, except I don't do that because we're not affiliates. But I'm going to give my brief little argument, as not a lawyer over here, about why I recommend what I recommend. And then I want you to give your argument for your Capital One starter card. So, are you okay with this?
Does this make me the judge?
Yes.
Do I get to say who wins?
This is not a competition. This is, people should do what works for them. And that's why I like this game, because there are different methods and they all kind of end you in the same place, as long as you're being wise, which is our tenet. We preach wisdom over here, financial wisdom. Okay. So for me, the reason that I preach the Chase Sapphire Preferred as the starter card is just because that combo of Southwest and Hyatt can be the most simple way to see a return on your points very quickly. Literally one card, either transferred to Southwest or Hyatt, or actually really both, could get you an awesome little domestic trip. And because of that, because it's so easy, you don't have to understand some complicated airline transfer partners or anything like that. To me, it seems like the best way to show people, one card, here's how you actually get a full trip out of this one card in the most seamless way possible. Most big cities you can fly to on Southwest. Most big cities have cheap Hyatts. It's just such an easy combo, and I think a really good way for people mentally to wrap their heads around it and not be scared. Because if you don't see a reward for a minute, you might start to be like, what am I doing? Okay, those are my thoughts. Your turn.
You're supposed to say, I rest my case.
Oh, sorry. Yep, I rest my case. I clearly don't watch enough law shows. I did watch Suits, though, guys. I liked that show. I liked it a lot.
I've never seen it.
What?
I live it. I don't want to watch it.
It was actually such a good show, though.
So yeah, this is going to make me like the oldest person alive. Do you know the first lawyer show that came to my mind just now?
Perry Mason?
Matlock. I was going to say Matlock.
I remember Matlock too, though, but that's because we grew up like not allowed to watch TV, so everything we watched was like old reruns.
I think they're bringing Matlock back, though. Maybe that's why it was refreshed in my mind. But I saw a commercial the other day. I was like, they're making a new Matlock? That's crazy. Okay, hilarious. Joanna rests her case for Chase card to start with. Now, Jenna, Counselor Jenna, is that what we call it?
Oh, I don't. I'm getting like PTSD.
Oh, no, that was not what we wanted. This is a safe space.
I just work a lot, so.
Well, think of this as fun. This is a mock trial,
which I just did last week on a different.
Oh my gosh!
Like an actual mock trial last week. Yeah. So my reason for Capital One, and part of it is the bias of I started there, so I was able to understand it. And especially if transfer partners are overwhelming to you at the very beginning, then I really like Capital One because it's so simple and straightforward. It is 2 points per dollar, no bonus categories, no complicated needing to stack things, no anything. Every single purchase you make, you will get 2x. And as I mentioned earlier, I'm someone who has a hard time diving in on anything unless I feel like I know everything. And so I think, especially if you have that kind of a mentality, starting with a card that you don't have to think about, you just do it, makes things really, really easy. I love my Chase Sapphire. I use it for all my dining because of that 3x. I use it for all my Lyft because of 5x. But just the simplicity of the Capital One system for me is really why I recommend it for beginners. And then once you're a little bit more comfortable, then you get into Chase. And there actually was an interesting, a different podcast I listened to where someone broke it down by the numbers and the analytics and numerically showed that the Capital One Venture card made the most sense in the long run.
Interesting.
I'm a math. I love math. So I was like, oh,
yes. Well, yeah.
For me.
And I have the Capital One Venture, and I use it for most of my everyday purchases because I'm not going to choose 1x over 2x. I'm not going to use the Sapphire Preferred, but I'm also hyper aware of all the categories. I do quite the rotation of cards, and I definitely, that's too overwhelming for people at the beginning. I also like the Venture as a starter card because before you get too hung up on value and transfers, the purchase eraser is so seamless. I mean, you just book your travel and then, well, you can just write it off. And that's kind of a fun way to see a return too. For
11 years, that's all I knew. That's what I thought travel hacking was for 11 years was the travel eraser. You do see a faster return if you like book something through the portal. You get that 5x on everything. You get, if you have the Venture X, you get 10x. And so I saw, for me, it was just easier to earn those points. And that's why I'm a Capital One girl. Plus, it's sometimes I've been finding that it's harder to get approved for a Capital One card than it is to get approved for a Chase card. So while Chase has its 724 rule, if you're just getting started and you're at 0 and 24, start with that Capital One, get your foot in the door there, and then go focus on.
Very good argument right there.
And just remember that unlike Chase, you can hold both the Capital One Venture and Venture X cards at the same time. With Chase, with the Chase Sapphire Preferred and Chase Sapphire Reserve, which are kind of comparable to the Venture cards, you can't hold both of those personal cards at the same time. You have to choose one or the other.
And I have both right now.
Yes, but it's funny that I'll do the Amex Gold annual fee, but the Venture X annual fee, I'm like, oh no, I can't. I cannot.
You're going to get there.
I probably will.
There.
But with the Venture X has that $300 travel credit. I'm very much a girl math kind of person. So I look at, I'm like, oh, $395, but minus the $300 for my travel credit.
Right.
And then, all right, we're down to 95. And then I get my TSA pre-check. So that brings it down. And then I get my priority pass, which is over $100. So basically they're paying me to have the Venture X card.
Yes, we do that same kind. We definitely do the same girl math with the Amex Gold credits, but they are much harder to use than the Venture X credits.
And I wish you could share your credits because I would absolutely give one of you my Dunkin' Donuts credit.
You know, I'm sure you heard us. We don't love it, but we're not going to let a breakfast sandwich go to waste.
No, I'm not.
No,
big girl that miss meals over here.
Yeah, I don't think LA even allows Dunkin' Donuts within the limits of their city because that is not healthy enough for the people of LA. Maybe these are all my stereotypes about LA. I don't actually know.
Well, my husband's a Bostonian, so we've
there you go. Looking back, is there anything that you could, if someone truly is starting now, is there anything that you would do differently or that you would help let someone learn from your mistake?
The biggest mistake I feel like I've made is not starting sooner. And this weird thing of I was afraid of all of these horrible things, this like world of horribles happening of my credit score is going to tank. I can't hold that many credit cards at one time. This is not sustainable. And I wish I just kind of trusted that everybody else around me, like there's this thing I do this in my everyday life too. I'm not special. Like there's not anything different about me. If it's working look at the 100 other people who I know who are doing this and it works for them and they can accomplish all of this. Why not me too? There's nothing so unique and so special about me that the bad thing's going to happen to me where the good things happen to everyone else. And I just kind of wish I'd gotten past that fear and just trusted that all of these wonderful people I'm learning from, like you guys, it's worked for you, it can work for me. And I wish I just kind of started sooner.
I love that. It's the same advice for people who like wait to have kids until everything is perfect and they're ready and they know everything. You're never going to be fully ready. You're never going to have enough money. You're never going to know everything. Literally the same in points and miles. You will not know it all when you start. At some point, you just have to get started. And it's going to be okay. People like us are here to hold your hands and walk you through it. Jenna, this has been a delight. And I want you to tell everybody where they can find you online. And also, if you would like to share the project you've been working on that you'll be putting out, which I believe is a guide of some kind for people to, I don't know, maybe earn like 1 million points or something like that. Maybe you should tell people about that.
I'm only on Instagram right now because TikTok is way over my head.
Same.
I can't.
Same.
I can't figure it
the
out.
Worst.
Maybe it's being elder, middle, millennial, something. I cannot figure out other than Instagram. So it's Instagram. We're at Travelers-in-Law. And I finished our first ever freebie that I'm so excited for. And it is Roadmap to 1 million points. I lay out exactly.
The roadmap. I know you did that Formula One right there. That's why we chose Roadmap, isn't it?
Oh, that did not occur to me. Shoot.
Put a little Formula One something on it.
I'll go in and fix it and add an extra graphic. Maybe I'll put it in Mercedes colors because that's my team for the rest of this year until Hamilton goes to Ferrari. But yeah, so it is I break down exactly, open these 10 cards in this order, and I don't use any elevated sign-up bonuses. I just do it entirely off of this is the standard offer, this is the referral offers, and this is what the minimum spend is. And at the end of these 10 cards, I actually could have gotten it to 9 or even I think 8 if I'd used elevated offers, but I wanted to make it as universal as possible. So open these 10 cards in this order, and by the end of it, you will have 1,070,000 points.
Heck yes. That is such a gift that you put in the work there, so other people do not have to. So everybody go find Jenna. We're going to link you up in the show notes. Go get her freebie. It's free. Why not? Literally, why would you not?
Thank you. Cute. It's a little road.
Okay.
Oh, yay.
So obsessed with that. Thank you so much for being here today. This was amazing.
This was so much fun.
You're going to have to come back after your big pregnancy moon and tell us all about it. Or maybe also after the Formula One Italy trip, that's like basically fully travel hacked. That's even more incredible to my brain.
Yeah, and something that's cool about the Formula One trip is the tickets. Well, so we can't travel hack the tickets themselves. But one of the things when we started doing points in we being me forcing my husband into it, what I really wanted was not necessarily erase all your travel expenses, but use it to stretch your budget as far as possible. So
Absolutely.
Formula One tickets are astronomically expensive, like honeymoon level expensive, at least the ones we're going to get. So this way I can afford that without breaking the bank. That's our normal travel budget because everything else I've done on points. And I haven't spent any extra money. I use only my normal Labor Day expenses. And so we'll get to go to I'm so excited. I cannot wait.
So amazing. I cannot wait to hear every moment of that.
On the Instagram, we're going to be showing as we go how we booked it and everything.
That is perfect. Everybody should definitely go follow you. And I'm going to be keeping up with all of the big things coming on your Instagram because I can just tell your Instagram's got it. It's got it. Everybody go look. See, you'll see what I mean. It looks beautiful. It's got so much valuable information. Jenna, we love you and we appreciate you. And we thank you for coming today.
Thank you guys for having me. This was so much fun.
Thanks, Jenna.
If you enjoyed this show today, please consider writing us a review or clicking 5 stars wherever you listen to your podcasts. And please subscribe and follow along so that you never miss an episode.
You can follow the podcast on Instagram or YouTube at Wonderland on Points Podcast. You can find me on Instagram at Family Travel for the Win with the number 4.
And you can find me on Instagram at Points to Wonderland.
If you're thinking about getting a new Travel Rewards credit card, consider using the links in our show notes. Using our links helps to support us and keep our podcast going so we can provide you with all the latest tips and tricks when it comes to traveling on points.
And if you aren't sure which card is right for you, shoot us an email at wonderlandonpoints@gmail.com and we would be happy to walk you through a free card consultation. That's also a great place to send us all of your comments and questions. Thank you so much for joining us, and we will see you here next time.